I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Many of my patients lived off the grid. Sometimes they didn't have running water or electricity, and I'd often find myself navigating to their homes using the compass in the car and my map. All of my stories are changed for HIPAA and for the sake of storytelling. I'm going to take you back to this time I did a visit in the middle of the wintertime in probably some of the most unfavorable conditions you can think of. I am off the beaten path. I am not even on a road that is paved. Like, talk about snow plows and salt. Yeah, no, absolutely not where I was. I'm navigating these back roads the best that I can, and all I can think of is there are no guardrails and there are a lot of steep drops. So I am like so relieved when I finally pull up to the property. And this property, while it looks absolutely beautiful and pristine with all of this snow, is like a 2-story cabin that looks like it's caving in on itself. Like, I mean, the roof is starting to like bow. The cabin itself looks slightly kind of off to the side. I was actually pretty surprised there was somebody living in the residence. So I walk up this porch that has not been shoveled. I have snow practically up to my butt, and the door is answered by this middle-aged woman. She says her name is Rachel for the sake of the story. Tells me that I'm here to see her mother. Her mother, we're going to call her Mary for the sake of the story. So I'm greeted into the home, and in the main room, right where we walk in, there's like a hospital bed on the far wall. On the left, there's a fireplace. To the wall I'm closest to, there's like a couch, and then there's a recliner at the end of the bed. Before I meet the patient, Rachel's kind of explaining to me the situation. She came back to care for her mother following her having a medical emergency, and now she basically needs total care. She's very difficult to communicate with because of this complication. She only says a couple of things very repetitively. And I can see from the main area that beyond that there's like a hallway and I'm assuming the kitchen. So despite the fact that I'm not quite sure of how much the patient can understand, I always introduce myself. I always try to get an idea of how much are we understanding, you know, what can I do to help here? And all Mary says is, nobody's coming. And every question I ask, she just says, nobody's coming. And I had spoken to Rachel and she said, you know, it's very typical. That's one of the things that she says. Particularly this time of day, she starts to get kind of anxious. You know, she has some sundowning, gets very confused in the evening, and she'll just start saying, nobody's coming. And I don't really think much of this other than the fact that perhaps this is how her illness has affected her. Rachel says this is her norm since she's been moved back home, and I'm kind of just trying to get an idea, get a gauge of what exactly has changed that Rachel's concerned. So during the visit, Rachel and I kind of start talking about her life and how she was raised on the property, came back again, like I said, to care for her mother. And all of a sudden her mom, you know, starts getting very worked up and she's like, nobody's coming. And Rachel's like, this is what I'm talking about. At a similar time, while Rachel is tending to her mom, you know, kind of like saying, Mom, you know, it's okay, I'm looking at the doorway and I notice what I would best be able to describe is like a hunched over figure with very long arms, walking past the doorway with its arms dragging behind it. I know that sounds crazy and I know it's hard to imagine, but that's the best way I can describe it. And so I kind of like nudge Rachel. I'm like, hey, I'm kind of like explaining. I'm like, I swear, I'm like, you said that it's just you and your mom. And she goes, yeah, you know, I just came home to care for my mom. It's just the two of us in the house. And I'm like, listen, I know this is crazy. Do you have like a cat? Do you have a dog? Do you have anything? And Rachel's explaining, no, it's just the two of them in their house. And her mom is, again, just in a state of nobody's coming. So I take a few deep breaths. I calm down. I think, okay, it's time. I need to finish up, and then we're kind of going to discuss what we think. I go over next to Rachel near the bed, and Mary's looking at me. The patient's looking at me. And Mary stops talking for a minute, looks at me, looks at Rachel, and says, that's nobody. I beg your finest pardon. Absolutely not. That's a no. Absolutely, that's a no from me. No, ma'am. Never in a million years could anything have prepared me for the way my stomach fell directly into my ass. I looked at Rachel and I was like, no. No, the end all be all is, I was pretty concerned about this behavior regardless, so we made sure that was taken care of. But I still stand firm on I saw something walk through that doorway. I know I saw something walk past that doorway. I suppose the moral of the story is when people say that they see nobody, nobody's there, who exactly is nobody?